G'day, Stu here from UAVfutures, and today, no joke, you guys are going to flip out about this one because this thing totally blew my mind. I've already done this intro, then I went out and I flew this thing and I was like, holy smokes, this is the fastest quad, the fastest micro I have ever seen. So, with that title, you know, I really think this is the world's fastest micro quad out there. If anybody knows any quad smaller than this that can go faster than this, I challenge you to stick some links down below because honestly, check out this footage. This is some DVR footage. Check this out. Have you ever seen a micro go that fast? I know when I took this, I should probably say what this is. This is the Lizard95 and we're going to be doing a review. But when I took this out to fly it around, everyone was flying around, I sort of powered it up. I took it for a spin and I guarantee everyone who was out there just stopped and said, Stuart, what is that? Because all you could see with this tiny black speck absolutely hammering across the field. Anyway, what we're going to do in this review, it is so much fun. This one's a bit beat up because I've been flying it so much. We're going to stick the Lizard95 on the bench, break it down, have a quick look at its components, how it goes together, and then most importantly, we're going to take it out to the field. We're going to thrash it around, and I'm also going to show you some DVR, and we're also going to get Grumpy Trev to check it out as well because he absolutely loses his mind. I know I lost my mind when I was flying this thing around. So you guys are going to love it. Let's stick it on the bench. Enough rambling. This is the Lizard95. Let's get started. Alrighty, so here it is on the bench and everything you get. And first thing, look, this has never really happened before. And I do have to apologize a little bit because this thing's a bit dirty and I have been flying this around quite a bit because it's been so much fun. So usually I review them before I fly them and or I do a little test flight, but I couldn't help it with this thing and so many people wanted to go, so it's had a few stacks. It's got a little bit of grass and mud on there, so you're just going to have to forgive that. Anyway, what do you get when you actually get the Lizard in the little kit? So you get we'll get the boring stuff out of the way, you get some spare props. You do get this little cool USB adapter because it doesn't take a standard little micro USB port, so you either need this USB cable that comes with it, and you get a little sort of, I guess, adapter right there. You get some velcro to attach your batteries if you want. You get a 3S, a 550 milliamp hour battery, which is, you know, pretty cool, nice little size. I think it should, and it's a 40C battery, so I think that's going to be plenty for these motors. And then you get this little freak of nature. However they've done it, you get this absolute power rocket. Now, I guess what we should do, part of the reason why this might be so fast is let's stick it on the scales and find out how much does this thing weigh. So take your bets now. Let's tear these off. So it's coming in at 65 grams. When you've got a battery on here as well, if I can put that on there, it's 112 grams of absolute power. So 112 grams, but why is this thing so impressive? So because of its speed, let's have a look at some of its specs. So you've got these pretty gnarly props on the outside. They're a 5-blade prop, and traditionally I would say like the more blades you have, you don't actually get a faster top speed. Like these tri-blades, these bigger ones, I know are definitely not as fast as the bi-blades, but maybe in this tiny little space, the surface area that these are taking up, this thing absolutely rips through the air. So we've got a 5-bladed prop with a heavy ball nose on there. It doesn't have any lettering or anything like that, so I don't know what the pitch is. And then it must be attached to this secret sauce motor underneath here. So you've got an 1104 6000 kV Eachine motor. And that thing, like those two components together, are an absolute beast. Now that's connected up to a 10 amp ESC. It's rocking D-Shot, which is fantastic, so it's super quick. And this is something I really like. I'm going to flash some pictures on the screen. The ESC PDB flight controller receiver stack right there. It's like a little mini sort of 3-plate stack. Fits really, really nicely. So much so, I've actually ordered some of those because you can get them separately, and I think they're going to make for some super clean little builds. So we're rocking D-Shot. Above that, we've got our F3 flight controller, which is rocking Betaflight. It's got an OSD built in, which is fantastic. And then on top of that, we've got our receiver, and I'll link some different options down below because I think there's like a native FreeSky one, a FlySky one, a Spectrum one. They come in a whole bunch of little extra receiver pads up the top, and then we've got our buzzer. And then on the front, sorry, this is where I meant the VTX was. Then on the front, we've got our little camera VTX combo. So I think this can go up to 100 milliwatts. And for some strange reason, when you push the button at the front, it can invert the image, which I don't know why you'd want to do that. That seems a bit useless. But of course, we've just got our standard VTX right here, pumping out, you know, in a circular polarized antenna, protected by some carbon on the top. Now, is that going to cause any interference? Look, I didn't find it caused too much, but it's definitely, this part would be a little bit better if it was plastic. I've just poked my little receiver antenna out the top. I haven't had any issues, and the only thing that I really didn't like on this was this lens. So this lens right here has some massive fisheye effects, which I'm not a big fan of. So when that's flying around, it just felt a little bit weird. Some people are used to it, but not me. So I prefer like a 2.5, but this felt more like it was a 2.1. You could see an awful lot, but it definitely did make me feel a little bit weird when it was flying around. Now, if we flip it over, it is cool to have an XT30 connector. I think that's definitely the right choice. You've got some colored LEDs here as well, which is great, so you can program them to do whatever you want in Betaflight. I wonder what they're set up in stock, actually. We'll find out. I think, you know, so they can do a whole bunch of interesting things right there. I think when you arm it, it does some different things, and it's got little blinkers and all that sort of jazz. But, you know, that's just a bit of bling, I guess. And then on the bottom, this is actually one part I would like to change as well. So, your battery straps in here, I must go this way, your battery straps in here, but it doesn't fit very well. Like this Velcro doesn't hold it down that tightly, which is a bit of a shame because you can't really crank it down like the other straps. And it's got no foam pads or anything like that to sit on here. Look, you do get some Velcro, which is okay, but for me, I would prefer if somehow they had a little plate that you could really crank it down onto, because, you know, not all your batteries are going to have Velcro on them, as much as Trevor's going to tell me otherwise. But, you know, that we could crank it down to, and also change this Velcro strap out, because I'm not a big fan of that. So really, the only two changes I'd make to this little powerhouse, I'd change the camera, and I'm going to mod the bottom a little bit more so I can attach my batteries and keep them a little bit more secure. But overall, look, you guys have seen the flight footage, or I guess a quick snippet of it. This thing is an absolute beast. So I'm going to take this thing down to the field. I'll show you some footage of it absolutely ripping around. It's just going to be DVR footage because, of course, this thing cannot carry a GoPro because it's so light. The GoPro probably weighs just as much as it. And then we'll hand it over to Grumpy Trev and you can see his reactions as well. And I want you to count just how many times he says, "This is fast." Anyway, let's cut down to the field in 3, 2, 1. Boop. Alrighty, here we are down in the field, about to test out the Lizard, and a little bit of a disclaimer. I went out the other day and we are going to get Grumpy Trev on, but at the moment I'm here by myself because I forgot to record the DVR the other day when I was out with Grumpy Trev. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you some DVR around here at the in-laws, and then we'll cut down when I did film Grumpy Trev flying this little beast around, because you guys are about to absolutely lose your mind at just how quick this thing is. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's jump in and just have a think, how fast is this? And look, this footage is not sped up or anything at all. So I can't wait to show you the DVR of this bad boy. All right, let's do it. Alrighty, on board, and straight away, I just want you to remember that this is like a tiny, like 95mm drone. So usually, you know, this might be some 5-inch footage you'd be used to seeing or something, and I want you to think, how fast is my drone? And then look how fast this is. When you really put the hammer down, and this is not a small property at all, look at this drone just covering so much ground. It is an absolute freak of nature. Now, that does make it feel a little bit weird when you're sort of flying around. I think when you're going at such speed and you've got such a tiny craft, it's kind of this strange inertia thing, because it is so light, it turns on a dime, and it actually felt like something that I've never flown before, which is probably rightly so because it's absolutely crazy. I think this is sort of the first micro drone that you could really do some acro with. Like, I think I come down here in a minute. I thought I'd go out and check the sheep, do a bit of herding the sheep, save the sheepdog doing it. Anyway, but I'm coming down in a minute, and look, you can actually punch it a little bit and it will pop up into the sky, and you can actually get some hang time, which is almost unheard of with a micro. So I think I turn around right here, look at the hang time, look how high up, and a little punch, and then you actually have some hang time with a tiny little micro, which is so cool. So what I really can't wait to do is, I think this thing is like an ultimate sort of sleeper quad. You could take this out to a short indoor track or something like that if you've got the skills, because it definitely was flying, not like it was on rails. It was a wild ride the whole time. But you could take this thing out to like a little indoor track or something. People could have their 5 inches ready to rock and roll. You could put down this little quad, and if you've got the skills to pay the bills, you could absolutely whoop them with this thing. Now, you may notice a little bit of a fisheye part, and that's one thing that I didn't like. I might be changing this camera out soon, but speaking of a little track, I put up a few little micro gates. I thought I'd rip it around, and for me, this thing was too quick. Even though, you know, this might look like fast from micro footage, this thing was like on about 40% throttle as it was going around. You saw how fast it was before, so this thing felt like it was just puttering around on a course like this. And right here, I almost think I started to do a bit of a power loop, like it's backwards. It actually has some backwards momentum in terms of a power loop, which is absolutely crazy for such a little micro. But of course, I don't think I've got the skills to get through with this one, because it wasn't too long before I crashed. So if you're going to fly this thing, I definitely think hang on, because it is an absolutely crazy wild ride. So overall, I was totally blown away. Look, it's not perfect. I would like to put a bit of a better camera in there because I think you need it when you're going this fast. And it did feel a little bit weird to fly, and I think there was some tiny small oscillations in there. But overall, I was not expecting a quad to be this fast. And you guys have seen just how many quads I've flown, and this thing totally shocked everyone. Even the first time I flew it, it was hands down the quickest micro I have ever seen. So a ton of fun. Anyway, what we should do, let's hand it over to Grumpy Trev and see what he thinks as well, because I know he's going to lose it as well. All right, Trevor, what do you reckon?
Small. Yes, you've bent this already. Look, all the props are bent.
Yeah, I bent some props, but you're just going to have to make do with those.
You won't give me any more props. Jeez, it looks pretty horny, doesn't it? How tiny is it? Could not fly one of these without your goggles on, because it just disappears. Oh, let's get it in the air.
Is that? All right, Trev.
Okay. Oh, Jesus. This, whoa. Bloody hell, this thing has got some, it's fast. It's fast. Bring it hell. It's like a hummingbird.
Yeah, give it some stick.
I can see what you mean about the...
I can't even see it.
The thing is...
Don't make me laugh, I can't control it. The lens on this thing is a bit hairy going. Really fish eye here, but jeez, it's fast. It's still uncontrollable. Oh, you wouldn't be able to hit a gate with this. You wouldn't be able to hit past it before you got to it. Oh, I can't believe it. This is unbelievable. It's fast. These are fun.
Are you getting any oscillations or anything like that?
Oh, from the props you bent? Only a little bit. Oh, it's just too fast to fly anywhere. Yeah, shit, it's fast. It's fast. Did I say it was fast? It's fast, I tell you. It's really fast. Certainly not indoors. Calvin, you won't be using one of these indoors, mate. It's incredibly fast. Fun. A lot of fun. It's weird, it's that fast.
Alrighty, Trev, you've crashed it. What do you reckon?
I parked it. Stu only bought 3 batteries for this, and this thing is so fast. So much fun.
What's the Grumpy Trev rating out of 10?
Oh, look, I'd give this a 9.5. It is shit hot. It's great. It's fast. Want to have some fun? Get one of these things. It'll drive you nuts because it is incredibly fast, but have someone watch it because you lose this thing. A blade of grass will hide it. It's that small.
You're a fan?
Yeah, it's fan and packed full of fun.
Alrighty, so there it is. There's my review of the Lizard95, and I think that flight footage speaks for itself. It is an absolute weapon, and I mean like the speed of this thing. This has to be the fastest quad for its size, hands down. I would love to challenge anybody who can build one faster than this. And the crazy thing, it just comes straight out of the box. It's ready to rock and roll, and this thing is only on 3S. So I don't know, in the future, am I game to try this thing on 4S and see what happens? Now look, it's not perfect. There are some things I'd like to change. Number one, I think I want to do a little bit better tuning. The props do break quite easily, or they don't break, but they get bent up a little bit, so it's going to make it a little bit jostly. A little bit of jitters anyway, and I would like to change the FPV camera. So maybe if I could put something in there like a micro Swift or a Runcam Swift or something like that to give me some really cool FPV footage, because at the moment that camera lens and the cameras that's in there, that's really messing my, I guess, ability to fly, because I'm not used to such a big fisheye effect. But I definitely think this is such a great step and such a great innovation towards the hobby, because this thing is an absolute rocket. I finally have a use for some of my old batteries that I haven't flown around, my tiny little, what are they, tiny little ones like this. I've finally got a use to pick these up again, put them in a quad, and like I'm going out for a fly again once I finish filming this, and people saying, Stuart, can you please bring the Lizard? You know, I want to test that out again. Anyway, hope that you guys like that. Definitely drop some comments down below. What do you think of this little bad boy? Subscribe for more FPV related content, and as always, happy flying.
This thing is just, they should have called it the transporter, because one minute you're there, next minute you're okay down the road. No, it's just so fast.
Alrighty, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel and check out these videos. And I'm also going to leave a little link here to my Patreon page, because I've got some fantastic Patreon supporters and I like to give back to them as well. So if you want to join the UAVfutures family, there's things like bonus Velcro straps, little bundles of FPV goodies and things like that that also get sent out. Anyway, happy flying.